Hello, everybody, and welcome to the fifth episode of the Empowerment Podcast. We finally got to the fifth one. Today, to celebrate, we'll do a completely off the cuff episode where we'll be more natural and we'll talk about things like crypto, blockchain, investing, finance. We'll talk about what's going on in the world today because it's pretty crazy with inflation and fears of raising interest rates and all that. And so we'll get into that a little bit today. We'll also talk about the metaverse, which will really change the world and the way in which we communicate, the way in which we play, the way in which we spend our time on the internet. And yeah, we'll move into a new world more or less. And so what effect will that have on us? Where is it scary? Where is it exciting? Because for me, I do find it scary in some places. And I find it extremely exciting in others. And so, yeah, maybe we can start with crypto. What do you think about crypto? What are some of the cryptos that you like? Yeah, and which ones are you bullish on?
Well, shoot, maybe for our listeners who don't know much about crypto, maybe we should give them a little, crypto 101.
Okay,
And
should I start? You want to go?
and maybe just start with the OG Mac Daddy of them, Bitcoin. Yeah, feel free. Go ahead, give them a brief overview of
Okay.
what is crypto as it relates to Bitcoin specifically. We'll get into the other altcoins as we go on, but let's just start at the
For
base.
me, I will take a step even more back, and I will say what blockchain is. And
Perfect.
so, blockchain is, yeah, it's much more than people think now. It's just like tokens that people speculate on, and digital money. Blockchain is actually a new layer that is added on top of the internet, so to speak, that allows us to validate anything that is in code. Before that, you couldn't really do it because any sort of codes that could be made here, like look, let me go even further. And before blockchain, what we have to prove authenticity, we would have bills. And so you would make these bills, or you would make these diplomas, right? That would have this very complicated engraving and these materials and all that. So it'd be very hard for you, like that would prove its authenticity, and it would be very hard for you to replicate it. If you want to do that digitally, any sort of code that would represent some sort of engraving could be just copied and pasted. And so you wouldn't really be able to prove authenticity. It's great for sharing information and it's great for sharing things, but it's not great for owning things, because you can't have, there's no point in owning something that everybody else, that you can't prove that you own. And yeah, now you have a legal system that helps you. You have banks that prove that you own things. You have a lot of centralized institutions that we all put our trust in to validate the ownership of what we own digitally, and to validate the ownership of what we own in real life. But now we have this new technology that actually allows you to own something without having a centralized institution validating it. It's a system that allows you to yeah, basically own things on the internet, own digital assets. So yeah, well, the first place where it was invented by Satoshi Nakamoto, who can be a group, who can be one person, who made Bitcoin. He invented
So you say
blockchain
that
technology.
because we have no idea who created Bitcoin.
Yeah, we have no idea who created Bitcoin, and so that makes it exciting. And yeah, it gives it a sort of aura, right? Like
And
it's
and
that
and
that
is there a wallet, right, that we can track to the original wallet, and how much Bitcoin is in that wallet?
yeah, I think like 1.2 million Bitcoins in that wallet.
Wow.
Yeah, and it hasn't been touched. Only like I'm like, I think there's a $30 million wallet that has been touched, but any money other than that hasn't been touched. And so yeah, that's interesting.
Just some questions. Continue.
Yeah, no. So basically Bitcoin, or did I explain it right? Did I, maybe you would like to add something to what I was saying about blockchain? And
Yeah, no, I think no, you did a great job. It's a way to verify really anything. It's just kind of, as we're learning today, you can verify even real estate transactions via the blockchain and NFTs, which is a buzzword people are hearing around. But I think at the very beginning, it was founded, I think, beginning of 2009, right after
Yeah.
2008's financial, kind of meltdown. And I do believe it was born out of the idea of a financial revolution and financial independence, self-sufficiency, for residents in the community to be verified in a global way, right? Transparency, no more smokes and ladders, no more you lending 1,000 or you storing $1,000 in a bank in a savings account, them paying you less than 1% to do so, but then can legally turn around and loan out 9 times the value of what it is in your account, right? No more stuff like that happening, right? So it in the mission, and whatever vehicle that it is to prevent a lot of that stuff from happening, right? So providing equality, financial equality, access to funds, being able to exchange funds across borders without, Western Union and a whole rigmarole and what have you, like the way things should be. And in the beginning, it was used by those using it in nefarious ways, right? There were websites created to exchange drugs and do illicit and solicit illicit things, and it was they were using cryptocurrency because you can't track who owns a wallet, right? A digital wallet is where your Bitcoin is held, and it doesn't have a name attached to it, or it's not supposed to, at least. Um, and so that prevented, if a website ever did get found out that they were doing what it was they were doing in terms of drugs and stuff, it was almost impossible to track who was buying, selling, and doing any of those things, right? But not what it was necessarily made to be utilized for. Certainly something that could be, just like drugs are dealt with regular money, right? Same type of thing.
Yeah.
And so it can't be looked, so it got a bad rap in the beginning because of that. But through time and utilization and figuring out different ways to use it and even create other versions of it, right, via these altcoins, it's really opened up the world, and I think our society, to think of it in a more holistic and inclusive way. Like, how can we utilize this digital asset, and how can it enhance what we do as a society, right? How can it validate some of these, real estate transactions and what have you, beyond this store of value, which in and of itself is subjective, whether it's gold or anything, unless we're talking about water, air, and stuff that's going to keep you alive. It's really subjective, which is what our society is built off of. But how can we utilize that now for the betterment of humanity? Right, which I think is a lot of people that are involved in the crypto space, right? People that are like my age and your age, kind of, I call us the millennials and the younger, I call us kind of Generation E. You know what I'm saying? Like eco, energy, like we kind of thinking things of a different way. And I think that crypto plays a major role in that, because it allows us to amass a massive amount of wealth and then put that into actual infrastructure and into policy changing, into elections, right? So it allows us to gain a significant amount of power with this subjective store of value that is increasing. Like, it's a special time to be alive, in all honesty, and it's something that's still developing, and it's got the ceiling, or not even the ceiling, but it's got the ability to go, far beyond, I think, a lot of people even think of it. But it could also go to zero, which is really anything. Because somebody be like, what? Well, what is gold? What does gold do for us? We don't use it. We don't use it for anything but what? Shiny stuff on our ears and our necklaces and stuff. Are we using it in our food? Like, should we be? Like, what is the value of gold that we as a society has put so much value in it? Like, what is it? You can't build anything with it. I can't eat it. Like, what am I doing with gold but looking at it? You know what I'm saying? So anyway, off my tangent.
Yeah, and what is amazing about Bitcoin and blockchain technology in general is that it allows us to finally have a say in what is going on. And so what is a great thing about blockchain is that all the participants in the community who own coins can now vote into what is going on with the coin. And also a great thing about it is that we finally so the power comes into our hands and it goes away from the hands of the institutions, preventing things like the 2008 crash and preventing things like what happened in many countries where they print money like crazy and inflation is going up and that affects the poor in a very bad way, especially the poor who cannot afford their groceries, who cannot do anything. We know how bad inflation is, and All that comes from generally from giving the power to one centralized place. It's never good. It always gets corrupted. Like history tells us that. And so the best thing to do, like Winston Churchill said, you need to democratize it. Democracy is the I don't remember exactly how he said it, but he said is the best bad thing we have. That's kind of what he said, because yeah, sure, you don't have everybody who votes on it being an expert on the matter and stuff like that, like it would be when you would have a centralized institution doing it. But you have the trust that the collective society, so to speak, the majority will drive us in the right place most of the times, and more times rather than in centralized institutions will. And so also when you make a mistake, is the society that made a mistake, not necessarily one power that did. And generally, yeah, it's harder to corrupt something like that. It's harder to destroy something like that, and that is very, very good. It's harder to abuse something like that.
Let's talk about, that process again, back to kind of crypto 101, right? I have one Bitcoin, and you and I, I'm like, hey, I want your jacket. Not that I would pay half a Bitcoin for your jacket, but just for the, for the sake of our experiment here or explanation, I have a Bitcoin, and you're selling your jacket for half a Bitcoin, right? So we're going to do a real world utilization, and we're together, right? This isn't a virtual transaction. I'm standing in front of you, and I'm like, hey, yeah, I'll take that for half a Bitcoin. What happens? How does that, like, real world utilization, you got something that I want, and we're going to use Bitcoin as that value exchange, go?
Okay, well, first of all, I would love to sell you my jacket for half a Bitcoin. I'm down for that deal.
Well, let's say it's back in 2009, and would you still?
Okay. Still, I would wait. And so Bitcoin is a decentralized ledger. So you can think of Bitcoin like a piece of paper that more or less everybody owns, that is spread out on the internet, right? And that piece of paper is says Gary has this much Bitcoin, and Gary sent this Bitcoin to Sammy. And through some complicated mathematical equations that I do not understand, and calculations that I do not understand, they managed to validate through these computers that this transaction has been made, and then it's made in a block. I think the block is
where are these computers at that are verifying said transaction?
So these computers are actually spread out around the world. Anybody can own these types of computers and become part of the and connected to the blockchain. And so there are miners that they get a certain reward for validating this transaction, partly in a very small commission, and partly dinging out Bitcoin from making Bitcoins, popping them into existence. There are actually 21 million Bitcoins that are allowed to exist. And in this moment, we have about 18. And so, and every 4 years, it gets harder for you to mine Bitcoin. It's like you get half of a commission.
So then before you continue, right? Because this is a significant part, because this is the blockchain portion of Bitcoin, right? It is the verification of these transactions. So I'm there in front of you. I'm like, all right, bet I got Bitcoin, you got Bitcoin. But in order for this to happen, right, in order to verify that I've got the Bitcoin and you get the Bitcoin, it has to go get verified by other people, right? And these other people are these other computers that are actually running algorithms, right? That then verify said transaction. And the incentive for me, right, who has a computer, if I want to sit it there as a miner or use electricity or whatever it is to have my computer trying to figure this out, right? Because that's what it is. Computers figuring out an equation, and whichever computer figures out the equation is the one who gets the transaction fee, right? That's the incentive for being a miner, is to get the transaction fee that I'm sending between me and between Sammy, right? So you can set up, right, massive operations where you've got tons and tons of computers, right? So it's not just one of your computers that is, these are miners, are not like your laptop. Well, you might be able to do it nowadays, but you got a miner that verifies these transactions. It's connected to a network and what have you. there's a whole process of you connecting to a web server, and it's, you know, that's where the ledger, the blockchain is held, is via the internet. These computers, a web of computers across the world that is saying, yes, not necessarily Gary, but, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 10, 10, that number wallet has that
Character, yeah.
and sent it to this individual, right? So
Yeah, and the greatest part about it is that everybody has the blockchain, and so let's say if this whole mining operation goes down, the rest of them have it. So the greatest thing about it is that you shut it down in one part, 4 of them pop up in somewhere else. You know, like you have the ban in China. You know, didn't really, like, it affected for a little while, but you can look at the curve; it goes back up pretty quickly with people moving around. And so
because you can literally earn Bitcoin by letting your computer sit there and figure out equations. So there's an incentive.
Yes, and validating those transactions.
Right. Okay.
And so yeah, that is the amazing part about Bitcoin. And then the other amazing part about it is that you cannot hack it. I mean, you could. That's basically if you would manage to somehow get control of 51% of all Bitcoin that is out there, and of all the miners. And so I'm not sure how you would be able to do that, but that would cost you $500 billion to do, and that excluding out the fact that if you would start buying up this much Bitcoin, it would actually go up in price and be much more than $500 billion. But yeah, and it's pretty great with the fact that it's much easier to hack a bank than it is to hack Bitcoin. It's much easier to corrupt any sort of bank than it is to corrupt Bitcoin. So it's more safe.
The wallets, though, where you hold the money, I have seen articles and I've heard of a lot of people, you know, one losing access to their wallet because they forgot the code to it or misplaced it, you know, or somebody hacked into the wallet because it wasn't necessarily on a secure thing. So I know there's like these digital cloud wallets, but then they've also got, you know, hard cold wallets, right? The way you can kind of look like a USB drive that you can load your Bitcoin into, right, to keep it off the internet. And it holds it and it's coded into it until you plug it back in, and it's, you know, then it's there again. You want to talk a little bit about how, like,
well,
the progression?
You have people stealing gold, right? You have people stealing cold hard cash. You have people stealing cars. You also have people stealing Bitcoin, and that generally happens if you're not careful yourself. If you're not careful with how you use the internet, what links you click on, what you do, and also if you don't use the right, not the right, but if you don't use verified serious cloud ledgers, and if you don't go on into a cold ledger, if you actually have a lot of money and you want to protect it, you want to make sure that it's protected, then you are at a sort of risk. And also if you don't take care of your little code, which is very important, because you cannot go to anyone else and say, oh, I forgot my password, right? You have the password, and that's the only way in which you can prove that you own that Bitcoin or any sort of blockchain asset, more or less.
That's the value of having our financial institution be centralized, is that if any point in time somebody stole my credit card or my debit card, they can track, you know, and I can prove that that wasn't me and get reimbursed my funds in some cases, right? But in Bitcoin, that's not the case. You are at the bank, right? So if you don't do the proper things to secure your capital, then ain't no getting it back.
I would say that in the future, you know, with more regulation and with time, you would be able to insure your Bitcoin. I think you could do that in the future.
I mean, you can borrow against your Bitcoin now. I don't know if
people you could borrow against your Bitcoin with decentralized finance.
If people are smart, that's what they should be doing, so they don't get taxed on it, and then go get a real asset and use the passive income to cover back the payment of their, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, I digress. You feel me?
Yeah, that is
wealthy people do.
Not financial advice. We want to say here, not financial advice, like we see in all the videos. Right? Yeah. So yeah, should we get to Ethereum? Ethereum, Cardano.
Wait. So okay, so I'm like, bet I want my jacket. So what happens, right? So I got a phone, you got a phone, we got QR codes. So I go on my wallet, I scan your QR code to send you the amount of Bitcoin that I want. after a set amount of time, this transaction is verified. It lets you know you received your Bitcoin and that the Bitcoin's been removed from my wallet, in which case you then give me the jacket, right? Okay, that's a real use case, until we talk about the transaction fees, right? So this is what's going to be the good segue into Ethereum. The issue with Bitcoin is that if I buy something from you for $10, the transaction fee very well may be $10, $15, $20, right? So there's not like a everyday use case in terms of smaller item transactions. Now, we're talking about, a big business contract or the acquisition of millions of dollars in real estate, it may make a bit more sense, right? But if I want a bag of chips or a jacket, it may not. So there were other cryptocurrencies that were created in the same light, right? On blockchain and verification and what have you, but they're structured in a different way that minimizes these transaction, values, and got different use cases and what have you. So one of those kind of, you're Robin. If Bitcoin is Batman, we'll call Ethereum Robin for now. What is that? What is Ethereum?
Okay, so yeah, back just to add this little parenthesis for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is more like digital gold rather than digital money, and so that's a place where you store your money, you store value, but it's an asset where you store value, but it's not something that you want to transact with every day.
I have a question. And why do people choose gold to store their value? You know what I'm saying? I don't understand that either.
Why would they choose gold?
Yeah.
Well,
it doesn't go up that much. Like, I would put my money into real estate. Like,
yeah, well, the rationale that they use is that they don't necessarily want it to go up. They want it to stay stable, and gold has proven like its stability for a very long time.
So that's not the best way to hedge against inflation, though, because years like where we're in now, where it's close to 7% and going up, and the price of the price of gold hasn't gone up that much, you've lost money, right?
Yeah, in a way, I would say gold is a good way to hedge against inflation, but I would say gold is a pretty old and non-innovative way to store your money. If you want to look, people, first of all, I just want to have a let's dab on gold here a little bit, and let's compare with Bitcoin for a second. People say that Bitcoin causes a lot of pollution and gold doesn't. Well, wait a second. Don't they cut forests down so that they could look for gold and dig it up? Like, how much does it pollute the forests when you have these huge industrial machines digging down into the earth, causing, like, just ignore the noise and just like destroying animals' homes and all that. But you would have oil on the ground, and you would have like a lot of energy being consumed just for people to look for gold, and it might not even be there, so they have to go and look somewhere else and dig more and more gold. So and imagine what that did for the thousands of years for which we've been looking for gold. And then also you say, yeah, once you dig it up, you don't need anything. Yeah, are you sure? Like, how much does it cost in energy to protect the gold? Like all these big safes with people with guns and with all sorts of security systems and all these things, those things cost energy, and they take resources, and they take money that could be spent on doing sustainable things, that could be used in much more sustainable ways. And then also, good luck. Like, you're saying, oh, it cost me this much for me to transact this Bitcoin here from here. How much would it cost you for you to move that gold from there to there? How much would it cost you, like, first of all, like moving the car, the gold is very heavy, right? You would need a lot of security. Otherwise, like, you risk people's lives, right? How many people died for gold? Millions of people died for gold throughout time. Sure. So, Bitcoin, first of all, we're going to find ways to make it even more efficient than it already is. And for the amount of pollution that happens per transaction will lower with time. Like, we know that at this point is pretty high. Like, it is high, but it's not as high as the pollution that gold caused, and it's not as efficient to transfer and to deal with as it is with Bitcoin currently. And so yeah, that's why I'm saying that Bitcoin is a more innovative way of storing your value, and it's a more efficient way, because if you want to send it, you can just send it now. with a very low transaction fee. You want to send 40, 50, 60, $100 million worth of Bitcoin, you can do it in a second, as you would send the $3 to Venmo. You guys have Venmo or PayPal if you're in Europe. And so, yeah, I would say that's why people are going so crazy about Bitcoin, because you have this decentralized, unhackable, safe way of storing and transferring value to other humans cross borders without and doing it very fast. Because now, if you want to send a lot of money or money in general from a country to another, you have multiple institutions with multiple ways of dealing with things, with multiple types of teams, with all multiple what do you call them, systems that they use for handling money and doing things in multiple time zones and all that, with multiple types of fees, each charging their own fee, trying to take the money from here to here to here to here to here to here up until it gets to you. With Bitcoin, it just gets like this in a second. And so, yeah, that's very important, both for big players, and that's great for the price of for Bitcoin, but it's also great for people who are low in the poverty line. Let's say you go to the United States, you're an African person, you go to Europe or to the United States, or you go anywhere, and you start making money, you want to send money back to your family. You're gonna have companies like Western Union charge you 10 to 12% on your transaction. So that's like 10 cents on the dollar. That's $10 out of 100. That's a lot of money in these countries, charging you that for these transactions, and you know, it's not very good for them. Like these are a lot of money for them that could now be gained back by those people. And then also you have countries, African countries, and even Istanbul, Turkey at this moment, having terrible problems with their inflation. And you have the president of Turkey who wants to actually lower interest rates to fight inflation, which I think is genius. And yeah, so you have these people in charge of your money, and then with cryptocurrencies, you have the whole world in charge of your money, including yourself. And so it's a different thing. Yeah, we can get into Ethereum now, if you would like to talk about what is Ethereum.
Yeah. What is Ethereum? What is that?
Oh, okay, I can go into it. So Ethereum is the same thing as Bitcoin plus one thing. It adds so you have blockchain that validates money. You have Bitcoin that validates money, yeah, but it doesn't have to be money. Like it can be anything. And so instead of having digital money, you can actually have digital art that you can prove that you own. You can have digital real estate that you can prove that you own. You can go even more complex, and like any sort of code that you want, more or less, you can validate on the blockchain, so you can actually make smart contracts. And that is great for DeFi. That I wouldn't pretend that I know much about DeFi actually, because it's pretty complicated, but I know a couple of things about NFTs, and it's going to help also with music, and it's going to help us own our data on social media platforms and while cruising around the internet, and it's going to help us more or less own anything on the internet, from our pictures to the data that we have that we could finally sell, instead of having Facebook selling it for us and other companies selling it for us. And
so why can Ethereum do that but Bitcoin can't?
Well, because just because of the way they're made. Bitcoin was, let's say, it's more of a first generation, and then Ethereum. First of all, it's very hard to change a cryptocurrency like a blockchain technology once it's been made, because of the way in which it was made, because of the way in which it is. And so yeah, I can't explain much for why they're different, but I just know that they are. And yeah, so for example, Cardano is is 10 times faster than Bitcoin, than Ethereum, and it's going to be 10 times faster than Ethereum, even after the update. I think
How do they make it
Cardano does.
faster? Are there more miners? Is there less of a supply, more of a supply? Like
No,
what
I
what
think it's just the more times they do it and the more times they start it again, they just correct the mistakes that the other did because it's just so new. And so yeah, Charles Hopkins is the guy who who participated at the invention of Ethereum together with Vitalik Buterin and another guy, I forget his name. He's actually the founder of Polkadot now. And yeah, he's just using a more scientific approach. He's thinking before every step that he makes, and he does a lot of research before every step that he makes. And yeah, he managed to make it more efficient. Ethereum 2.0 is said to be able to validate about 100,000 transactions per second. And Cardano, at one of its later stages, is said to be able to validate about 1 million transactions per second. And so, yeah, I think part of what makes them faster is no, what makes them faster actually is the fact that they're proof of stake rather than proof of work. And so with proof of work, it's basically a part of the name. In order to validate a transaction, you will need to have a computer working to validate it, and then it gets a reward for that. With proof of stake, again, part of the name, you can stake your own money, and then those money in a process that, again, is pretty complicated and I don't understand, validate the transactions in a way that yeah, validate the transactions instead of having the proof of work one. And then you actually get you can make a passive income every month out of staking your money to validate transactions. So with this one, you don't even need a laptop. You can use your phone and make money out of owning crypto. And besides the fact that you make money out of it, you also get to have a say into where it's moving, where it's going next. And so, yeah.
Ethereum sounds like the future.
Yeah, I'm gonna mark this clip for 10, 15 years later, but I think Ethereum is gonna take the place of Bitcoin as the biggest one. Maybe Cardano will, but even further in the future. But now with the Ethereum's network effect, I genuinely think that Ethereum is going to continue being the boss over Cardano for quite a while, and then yeah, maybe like there's space for the both of them, but
Dabbling in Ethereum when it was back at $400.
yeah, gosh, no, I was in at 1400. It's like last year, something like that.
That and Litecoin. What's going on with Litecoin?
I don't know much about Litecoin. I like I'm more into like Engine. We can also talk about Engine. So for people who don't know what Engine is, which is a fairly new project, that like what I'm looking for is projects that have a lot of use, that you can use them for things, and besides the fact that they're a store value. And so Engine is a great one because they're good for the gaming industry. And so I'm not a gamer, but the gaming industry is actually bigger than the music industry and the film industry combined. So yeah, that's pretty big. And all of these items that people own in games, like the weapons and the skins and the cars and whatever, they don't actually own them, and they cannot use them in other games. And so what Engine does is it allows game developers to facilitate to create games where the people would actually get to own these items in their games, and to be able to use them in other games even, and to sell them on marketplaces, and to finally make money while gaming, and to be able to have these items hold a real value. And so yeah, that is a great technology. And
So that's like NFT-esque that you're talking
yeah,
about?
so it's an NFT maker basically. It's built on top of the Ethereum blockchain, and yeah, it's a NFT maker.
So NFTs. Okay. So to my understanding, right, if I want to keep this real basic and you know, and understanding, there are, these game worlds, right? Like Fortnite and God of War, Ratchet and Clank, or whatever the case is, right? These game Call of Duty game rules out there, but as of now, they operate within their silos, and you can buy stuff within there, but you can't use it in other things. Now, that doesn't mean that people aren't already engaging in the acquisition of this digital assets, because they are. People are spending a lot of
Yeah, they
money
are.
on Fortnite and on Farmville and on
CS:GO, like they had $40,000 snipers and stuff like that. Yeah, it's crazy.
right. So, but to your point, as we shift into this internet 3.0, these spaces will no longer be in silos, right? They're going to be part of this digital universe, this metaverse, right? And it's important for humans, as we've seen, we like to showcase what we got, or so this is a case where I could have an avatar, or a player inside of this metaverse, and I'm like, I want it to look like me. I want it to have a bridge hat. I want it to have a certain shirt. I want to throw some Jordans on it, maybe get a chain, some earrings or something, right? And that costs a certain amount of money, and people will pay for that just so that their digital avatar looks the way they want it to look. And we know this because there are cases where people in Fortnite dress their player a certain way, and there may be no actual benefits to the way the players dress, just how it looks.
Absolutely no
It
benefits.
shows
Yeah.
that people are very willing to spend money on literally just the way a digital thing looks, which is where these NFTs come in hand, because like these sneakers, these hats, these pieces of art, right? If I'm like, hey, come over to my metaverse house, I got a painting on the wall, right? I got a real version of this, but I also have the NFT version of it, which was made by the real artist, and I prove that I own it, which could, if somebody else wants to buy it, they could too, to put it in their house, right, if they wanted to. But so that's how those two worlds kind of start to combine. The blockchain, the real world starts to come together, and we're just in the very beginning stages of that. And Facebook has looked to accelerate this universe by even changing the name of their company to Meta, right? To kind of parallel this metaverse that's coming, which is crazy because whether you want to be in it or not, Facebook has all your data, which means they can create you in the metaverse, right? So
they certainly have you in data points. and you know what is cool about Facebook? They had this up their sleeve for at least the last 7 years. They bought Oculus 7 years ago, and I think they've always wanted to create this metaverse thing. But what inspired them to do it now is the fact that they finally got their missing infinity stone, so to speak, in order to be able to control the metaverse, the new universe, which is the fact that we can finally have digital ownership over digital assets. And so giving the metaverse an entirely new meaning, you could actually have this place that doesn't really exist here, that exists here, where you would have a new sort of legal system, digital legal system, that allows you to have real ownership over seemingly real digital assets that you can look at and interact with and transact with and use in this new world. And so, yeah, I really think that this is the missing piece and what motivated to do it now and not 7 years ago, because we had the technology 7 years ago. And even if we didn't have it at the point at which we have it today, they could have spent the money to take it further. But I think what they needed is this thing with digital assets. And yeah, let's get into the metaverse, because that is really interesting. Now we have a phone which is a two-dimensional, I don't know, 7-inch, I'm not with inches, 6-inch phone screen that takes away so much of our time. and that we can do an incredible amount of things with, right? Now, it affects us in many ways. So it's great that we can share information, and it's great that we can showcase our things on social media, and it's great that we can learn a lot using the internet, and that we can talk with people from all over the world. But at the same time, we're addicted to watching TikTok, and we're addicted to watching YouTube videos, and we have things like cyberbullying, and we have we're simply addicted to just scrolling down, right? And being immersed into this two-dimensional 5-inch screen. Now imagine if it's not 5 inches anymore, it's infinite in size, and it's three-dimensional, and it's everywhere you can look at, and you can go into multiple types of different worlds, and you can see everything and do everything and be kind of like Stark, like Iron Man, just moving things around and be a god, create your own universes, create your own houses, and make your, like, you want to have a beach view, and with your glasses on you can have a beach view, and now you can have a mountain view. You want day, you want night. Like, how addictive will that be? How immersive will that be? What can we do there, right? Like, we're all gonna have this incredible power that no one has ever had before in the history of existing. And so, other than God, so yeah, what are we gonna do with that? What is that gonna do to our brains? What is that gonna do to our kids who are gonna be born into that? You know, this is some incredible stuff that we're dealing with that we have no idea how to handle, and that a huge, the majority of people don't even understand that this is going on, and that this is really happening in the real world as we speak. And so, yeah, people see blockchain technology, and they hear about the metaverse as this buzzword that is going to go away. Just like they were saying, just like they were talking about the internet in the 1980s. A lot of these videos are going viral right now, with people on talk shows talking about how this internet thing that is going to pass away, and blah blah. And yeah, I genuinely, I wasn't born there, but if I was, I would have said I'm experiencing a deja vu. And yeah. And I think that with time, people are going to realize that this is a very big opportunity for them to get into this, and for them to understand more about this, and prepare their businesses, prepare their life decisions, right? Because it is going to affect their lives. It is going to affect their job. It's going to affect a lot of things. And so, if you want to make a lot of money, you can definitely look into these things now, and maybe get into them. I'm not saying invest in crypto, but I'm saying if you're young now and you don't know what to do for college, maybe you want to study computer science, maybe you want to study blockchain, maybe you want to get into VR. You know, if you want to invest in some companies, I would definitely invest in a couple of companies that are trying to innovate and do something in the metaverse right now, and with digital assets. Not financial advice, of course, but yeah, it's definitely some incredible thing. And then also, what I would do is I would look for jobs that this is going to disrupt, and I wouldn't invest in those companies. I wouldn't invest in those industries. If I am working in that industry right now, I would personally look for learning new skills, and managing to do something else with my life. Because, you know, automation and robots, so to speak, are out for a lot of the jobs, are out for a lot, like any sort of thing that can be like, it's a repetitive task, and you don't really need a lot of thinking to do. You already have robots taking it, right? So they are like the decisions that we need to like the jobs that are going to be still required in the next 40, 50 years are those where abstract thinking is needed, and where complicated human, unreplicable in code actions and thinking patterns like not even patterns. I don't know if you should call them patterns, because if it's a pattern, it's quite easy to code. But you kind of know what I mean. So I would look for doing that. Just to say, because yeah, maybe we'll have a universal income. That would be great if it existed, but we need to price in the possibility that that might not happen, and it certainly will not happen tomorrow. And so yeah, a lot of people will lose their jobs. A lot of people, like, is going to be a huge wealth transfer where a lot of people are going to become billionaires. A lot of people are going to make a lot of money. Um, a lot of people are going to be addicted to this. I'm not sure, like, I'm actually sure that diseases that are associated with sedentarism are going to become a thing, because people are just going to sit like this with some glasses on their face, and just all they will do is move their fingers around. I don't think people will actually get the, you know, the little band that they could run on and do things they already exist. But I think most people will just have some things on their fingers or some gloves, and they will just sit in their bed and move their little character around. And yeah, it will change the way in which we express ourselves. Like right now, we express ourselves through our clothes, we express ourselves through the way in which we take care of our body, and the way in which we walk, and the way in which we smile, and the way in which we do all these things. In the future, like the new Rolex will be the Bored Apes and the crypto punks, you know. These will be our Rolexes. Like also, you buy expensive furniture right now kind of to show off, not necessarily because you want it. Now only the people who I'm assuming now only the people who come into your house will be able to see your furniture. Now with NFTs, you'll be able to have these public galleries where you'll be able to express yourself and show yourself. And also a lot of things like the BOAPs. I don't know if you know what BOAPs are. Was like they basically prove that you went into certain places, and so if you attend a certain conference, you get an NFT saying that you attended this conference. So another great way in which NFTs are going to help is if people just want to see where you've been, what you've been learning, what are some of the conferences that you've been participating at. You could have an entire collection of NFTs classified by industry.
Hang on now. On the back channel, we definitely got to talk about that specifically, because I got some ideas surrounding that whole thing. So keep that on.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. We'll keep that for after the episode. But I went on a big run. I should maybe stop here. What would you like?
And shoot, I'll kind of try and put a nice little bow on it. Really the point is we're on the precipice of the future. The future is here and now, right? The Jetson type stuff that we saw, the flying cars, the robotics, artificial intelligence, like we are at the position where that's very close to us. And I think the metaverse is going to play a role in that as it pertains to robotics via augmented reality, right? I'm excited for the time where before we just become the couch potatoes with the contacts in and in the IV in to give us our nutrients. I think there's going to come a time before that, which we'll get to experience this portion of it, of where I can move around the world with like Google glasses or like some Apple eye contacts or something, right? And I can change what my reality looks like via that. So it might be cloudy outside, but I can change that it's now sunny, right? But I'm still in the real world. I think that's going to be dope, right? Because
yeah, or I don't need a laptop anymore. I can just sit at the desk and move things around, and I could see the desk. I could see the real desk, but in the same time, I could see like these digital screens and things going around. Yeah, we wouldn't need TVs anymore. We wouldn't need laptops and screens anymore. That would be outdated. You know, when we're gonna show pictures to our kids, they're gonna be, the picture is 2D. Really, I can now walk around and it is not a 3D, like, you know, those
can't get into the memory.
Yeah, I can't get into the memory and see it. Wow, that's old. That, like, how could you live with that? That's what they're gonna say.
Yeah, it's coming, right? And not so far, because if you think about, you know, the .com bubble in the early 2000s, and like I always think back like, no, it wasn't a bubble. They knew exactly what the value was, because look at the most valuable companies now, like their tech, So they were on it. They
Yeah, it's
just,
just they didn't choose the, the right companies. Like some of them, yeah, they were like heavily overvalued.
Amazon was back
But
then.
some of them, like I would buy Amazon at a 2000 valuation. That's for sure. Just give it to me. I'll buy with everything I have. So yeah, some companies, like just like some coins right now, are heavily overvalued, but the ones that are actually backed by fundamentals, by good fundamentals, like Bitcoin, like Ethereum, like Cardano, even Engine. What else do we have? We have Solana. Solana is pretty new, but it's also pretty cool.
You got your
Um,
other ones like your Doge coins. What do you think about
yeah,
that?
no, I'm not a big fan of Dogecoin.
All right,
I
yeah,
never was.
let's end it on that, right? Because we kind of gave a good 101, and now everyone's heard about this Doge. They've heard, Elon talking about it. They've seen this dog around. Is there any what is Dogecoin? What is that?
Okay, so I haven't, like, I knew the numbers at some point, but because I don't look much into Dogecoin, I haven't looked much into it. But I heard it's heavily inflationary. Like the tokenomics, the economics of the token, of the coin are not very good. It's a meme coin. It's something that more or less started as a joke, and jokes on us, because it really went high up, and it became pretty popular. Yeah, everybody's using it now. Not everybody, but like a lot of people are using it now. Many people made a lot of money out of it. Then Shiba Inu came around, which is another dog coin that someone made $5.7 billion out of, from an $8,000 investment they made 13 months ago. So
Now, if I
yeah.
could find out who that person is, if we could get them to inject that capital into intentional infrastructure in our communities, now some good has been done.
Yeah, some good would be done, if that was the case. But like, yeah, I'm not a big fan of coins that are like momentum driven. I Because in any sort of crisis, those things that are highly speculative are gonna fall the most. Like in a crisis, I would very much expect. I still think that Bitcoin right now is part of the class of highly speculative assets. And so if Bitcoin is highly speculative, where do we even put Doge, like so yeah, I wouldn't
So
recommend.
I have a question though.
Yeah.
Kind of to bring everything back, right? If to one of your earlier points, like you said, once a cryptocurrency is put out there, you can't really change anything about it, right? Like the laws are kind
Yeah.
of set, and essentially each coin has kind of taken some things from this coin or that coin, and there are a few that are starting to kind of rise to the top. But is it fair of me to say this, that possibly Bitcoin, Ethereum 2, Doge, like Cardano, all of them are still just way too early, and that there's going to be one that is perfected, right? In terms of its transaction fee, its speed, its utilization, right? Like it's not so far-fetched to think that that is being crafted as we speak and can still be crafted. No?
Well, yes, but coins like especially Cardano, I'll talk about Cardano. So the way in which Cardano is set up is that it has these different developmental phases where of course it does change. It goes through these stages. Like Ethereum went from 1.0, it goes to 2.0. So they can
That's
change
written
when they
into the
have all the miners agreed and agreed on it. And yeah, some of them are like kind of written in the plan and all that. And they, I'm not sure how, if whether they make the code so that they allow these changes to exist from the beginning, or it's simply part of the business plan and they materialize it with time. I'm not sure how that works, but I know that like all the miners and all the stakers have to agree with all the changes. The majority of them have to agree with the changes that are being made. And yeah, they do improve with the future. And a lot of these bugs that we see with Ethereum now, with a lack of efficiency, with the gas fees and all that, they are going to be solved, whether by the update or by another cryptocurrency like Cardano. But I think for the next 5 to 10 years, we're pretty much set with these ones that we already have. And unfortunately, I don't have a crystal ball. I would like to buy one. But so I cannot see more than 5 to 10 years in the future, and I could be wrong. But I think that certainly, not certainly, but I think that the ones that I think that also the network effect has a play in it. So even if a new cryptocurrency comes around, that does have these things, could not simply take their place. Just like Cardano is faster than Ethereum, it doesn't necessarily take its place because they have all these what do you call it, technologies that are already built on top of it and that people are using and all this and this and that. But yeah, it could be the case. I just see these as the best now that are gonna continue increasing in efficiency and in quality, and they are at the edge of everything. Like we cannot call them outdated just yet. So yeah.
Got it. Got it.
Should
Shoot,
we
well, I've
should
learned a
we end it
lot
here?
about crypto. Yeah, I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot. And shoot, if anybody got any questions, comment them down below and
Yeah.
for you feel me?
And yeah, by the way, everybody, this was my first off the cuff video. There was no planning in this. There was no writing like I usually do, right? I spend hours and hours making research and writing things down and thinking about what I'm going to say. This one was completely off the cuff. We didn't know where we'll go. We just said blockchain innovation, finance, crypto, like that. That's kind of like all the preparation that we made for the podcast because I wanted to improve my ability to speak. So
you did a great
yeah,
job, Sammy. Phenomenal job.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
I think it's something that we should do more often.
Yeah, we're going to do that. And from now on, expect guests and expect updates of the setting and updates in the quality. We want to bring more and more quality to you guys. We want to make this podcast be a great podcast. And we're working on that behind the scenes. So yeah, do expect more and more improvements and do expect an increase in quality, not just in the way I speak, but also in the production quality and all that. So
5 preseason games, and it's time to start the season.
Yeah, we're gonna do seasons. So yeah, expect a lot of interesting people, a lot of innovators, a lot of great people from industry, smart people who we would have a lot to learn from, and who are doing a lot of interesting things like Gary is doing, for example. So yeah, we're gonna have great guests and an increase in production quality. So do stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned for inspiration, motivation, and most importantly, that education. Now you are tuned
Education, yes.
Empowerment Podcast with your boys Sammy and Gary. We appreciate you.
That concludes the end of the 5th episode of the Empowerment Podcast. See you next time.